My name is Kathy Baumgartner-Hetrick, and Steve Philippi and I undertook a very large project this year of the 250th anniversary of Palmyra. We have decided to do some oral histories of people who have lived in Palmyra. Most of them are over the age of 80 or 85, and we asked them to tell us their story about Palmyra so that we could put together a DVD that you're going to watch now that has the stories of Palmyra based on the people who have lived here. We hope you enjoy it. We've had a fun time doing it, and we think you'll learn a lot about Palmyra and the history of Palmyra through the stories of Palmyra.
My name is Lloyd Martin, Jr. I moved to Palmyra January 2nd of 1942. I formerly lived back at Indian Gap, but I was only there about a year, because before I come to the Gap, where I worked for 2 years, I lived in Shamokin. And I brought a truck down here, worked at the Gap, that was 2 years. And then I lived back there at the Gap for about a year. And from there, I got a job in the Hershey Chocolate Factory. I had quite a drive from there to Hershey, and I got the opportunity to rent a house here in Palmyra, so the 2nd of January of 1942, I moved to North Railroad Street.
Okay, so you were a transplant, more or less, to Palmyra, but stayed. Why do you think you stayed?
Well, I worked at Hershey 38.
Okay, so your employment at Hershey.
I bought the house, and it satisfied me. It's not a big one, it's one of the smaller ones back there. And it was plenty big enough for the three of us. We only had the one child, my son.
But you raised your child here then?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He's a school teacher, 7th grade school teacher.
Oh.
Middle school.
In Palmyra?
Yeah.
Oh, great. So he went through the Palmyra system,
Yes.
and then went on to college, and then came back.
Yeah, he went to Penn State, and he came back here. So
Well, can you tell us how old you are now, though?
I was 93 in July.
You were 93 in July, so you've lived here a long time, and you've become a senior citizen of
Yeah.
Palmyra. So yeah, I would think, even though you weren't born here, you have some stories to tell about Palmyra.
Oh yeah, well.
Great. I guess in those numbers, well, let's see, you've been here for 60-some years then.
Yeah.
Right. In that time, you've seen a lot of changes in the styles of houses.
Oh yes.
In Palmyra.
Yes. I know a lot of people that had bought these smaller houses that you could get right after the war.
Mm-hmm.
Because my house has some used lumber in it. Back in Indian Gap, they had a big deck there, a 4-inch oak, that they taught the soldiers how to load and unload ships. They had a big post in the center, that's on the ship. And they, Mott's Rule, the guy built my house, he bought that lumber.
Okay.
Had it ripped up in 3x4s, and that's what my house is made.
Oh, that's great.
Heavier lumber, you know.
So, you said Mott's Rule was your builder. There were a number of contractors that were sort of the staple of Palmyra, weren't there? I remember Sherwood Kiefer. Who else were some of the?
Carlos Adams.
Carlos Adams. Okay.
And there were several others too, but I just can't remember her name.
Now, tell us about your connection with the Palmyra Fire Company.
Well, I was a fireman, a regular fireman. Went out and manned the hoses and ladders and stuff. And then after I got in there, well, then some of the older fellas weren't bothered much anymore with it because they were getting too old. At my age, I was only 30 then. A couple of guys suggested that I take a crack on it because when I worked in Shamokin, I worked for a white truck agency. I was a truck driver, truck mechanic. And there was we had 4 trucks over here in the fire company.
Oh, okay.
And they needed to work on once in a while. And we had a chief engineer, Roy Kreiser was our chief engineer. And I'd help them with different jobs, and well, we all pitched in when there was work to be done. What they could do, they did. But Roy was my chief engineer. I became fire chief in 1957, I think it was.
57.
And I was there until 1966. My wife had, since she had diabetes, and she was slipped back a little bit.
Oh.
I didn't want to be away from home as much as I was with the fire.
That's a big responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
People don't understand that the volunteer firemen don't have much of a personal life because they're always being called out.
I had to drill nights and being called out a lot. Right now the fire alarm goes off a lot. And while I was there, a friend of mine, the Hershey Fire Company, was a radio man. He took me in to get a bunch of used Army rig monitors. And we bought a bunch of them. They didn't work out too good. And then finally we decided to buy new. I still have my monitor.
Do you really? So you know where all the fire calls are today?
Yes,
You
the
can
only
hear this.
thing is here in town it goes by a pretty handheld unit that they have.
Oh, okay.
You don't hear the conversations.
Ah.
I do for all the other companies around here. What surprises me as much as anything, I can sit here and hear the Shamokin fire alarms going off and hear them talking.
Oh my goodness.
I know where the fires are in Shamokin.
And you know Shamokin, so
I
you
know
you can understand that. You said they had 4 fire trucks in 1957. That seems like a lot.
Well, we had 3 pumpers, and then I don't know, the ambulance was the other unit. That was the other unit. That
Okay.
was the ambulance. But then since then, we brought, well, the first squad truck we bought was the Legion's band truck when they haul their band around.
I remember that.
We bought that truck and we remodeled it the way we wanted it.
Uh-huh.
And what helped there a lot, the guy could get in that and sit in the seat. He had his back there packed right back and slip his arm in the harness. And when we get to the fire, he's all hooked up
Ready to go.
Yeah. We had some pretty bad fires. I remember a family that the father and 4 or 5 children had all burned up in the fire out along the Swatara Creek.
Oh no.
And they, I don't know just what caused it, but the mother did, she jumped out of the window and she was still living today as far as that is. Yeah.
Do you know what decade that was in? Was it like in the 60s or?
Yeah, that was in the 60s.
Okay. Oh my.
And just like the Greystone Manor over here, Mr. Schneider owned it.
Mm-hmm.
He had a box factory here in town. I don't know what happened. Nobody just seemed to know.
And he passed away, I understand, in that fire as well.
He lost his life in the fire, yeah.
And that was his home at the time.
Yeah, yeah. And all that thing there, when we were having bingo, it was on a Saturday night. We had bingo in the fire hall.
Because it was right across the street from the fire hall.
Yeah. And we went right over there and I went to the basement door because I figured that's where he was down there. I opened that door, I had a shot of flames just flew out that door every time I opened it. We eventually found them right inside that door.
Oh no.
That family had burned up in the same way. They got to the inside of the door, but
They couldn't get out.
I
Oh,
had the door locked and they just couldn't get out.
sad.
We've had a couple bad ones around here as far as people losing their lives. I know the Hamilton. The lady did what I've done time and again with the old coal stove. Get a shovel full of hot ash and put it in the heat roller to get that on.
And then it caused a fire.
Yeah, she caught her nose on fire.
Oh no. When asked chief, what were your responsibilities?
Well, at the same time, I was.
Just 1 second. Guys, you can't talk, okay? You can't talk. We're going to have to move because this isn't going to work. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. As chief, I was asking you, as chief, what were some of your responsibilities?
Well, it directed what to do at a fire, what to use,
Okay.
where to use it, how to use it. And also, I was assistant to the police fire marshal for Palmyra Township while I was chief. And I assumed we were doing the same thing. It gives you a little more authority because I know that I had, well, the shoe factory was a fire down there. And I asked for information. The state wanted this information. Proper damage stuff. Well, we don't do that.
One the first half or the second half.
I'm pretty sure it was. You got the stuff a lot
A
easier.
lot faster.
Yeah.
Now, did you direct most of the training for the firemen? Okay.
Michael, we cut
We had
out
our
the
training usually on that
see that right here?
Wednesday nights.
Michael, we.
Wednesday nights you did training.
The guy
We
that
checked, we kept track of we kept track of our plugs.
Eagles having.
Your fire plugs, you had to go around and
Touchdowns.
empty those every so often too. How many fire plugs were in town when you were responsible? You didn't remember?
How many there was, but I know at least once a year I would go around with the instruments and check the flow of the plugs. If you get a bad plug, then we notify the fire or the water line. But anyway, today it's a different story because it isn't owned by a local water company.
No, that's true.
True.
Let me ask you a question. You came in 42. Did you come on the fire team right away?
No, it isn't.
The reason I ask that is I have a DVD that I use of 1939, and they show the firemen in 1939, and they had an ambulance that was actually a hatchback, like a hatchback car.
Yeah, station wagon.
Yes, right, okay. And was that still being used when you got on the force, or?
No, they had switched over to Cadillacs.
Okay.
And we bought Cadillacs for a couple of years. To start off with, that was, the ambulance corps was headed there by Wilson Miller.
Wilson Miller.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it came over into the fire company's control because I know I had to sign the titles when they bought the new ambulances and stuff.
Okay.
And I was, and eventually there was a little conflict there. In fact, there was a building built, put together to move the ambulance corps out of the fire company.
Okay.
But it was, we bought the ambulances and stuff.
And they're still together today, aren't they? Yeah.
No,
Oh, yeah.
not today. Hershey bought it.
Oh, so we don't have an ambulance corps in town.
There's an ambulance corps here, but it's Penn State.
Oh, okay.
That's who owns the ambulance.
Ambulance. Is the ambulance housed in the firehouse?
There's usually an ambulance, and there was a garage built over there. I can't remember just who had that property, but across the alley, in the back of the fire hall,
Okay.
there's an ambulance cab in the garage there.
So it's there at all times, but it's not owned by the fire
There's
company.
oftentimes two ambulances. One is a paramedic, and the other is the transportation.
Right. That reminds me, as fire chief, I know that in order to have all these fire trucks and the ambulances in the early days, you had to do fundraising. As
Yep.
fire chief, were you responsible for the fundraising, or did you have another?
We, in our meeting, the president would appoint somebody. He wasn't always the chief, I was a couple of times.
Okay.
We went around knocking door to door. We did that for years. And then I had to go to borough council meetings, and that was brought up because of some of the problems with traffic. And Bill Wirt was the chief of police at the time. That name just kept-
I know, I'm glad it did. It works, that's
Yeah.
right.
And we tried to get some of the younger guys to get in there because these older fellas that were too old to fight, and they were even having trouble doing that job. We got some of the younger guys to get in. In fact, some of these guys today, Beamy is the head of them today. Now, he was one of my fire police
Okay.
when I was chief.
He was a fireman or he was a fire
He
police?
was a fire policeman.
He was a fire policeman.
Yeah. And that's the way it worked. When I got in there, I got a bunch of younger fellas in there because the older fellas were just...
You're out in all kinds of weather,
Yeah.
and the traffic is a problem. Today, the traffic is scary to be out.
Like me at my age, I'm not running anymore.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I think you're allowed to retire.
Yeah.
Well, our time is sort of wrapping up, but let me ask you, from the standpoint of Palmyra, what was one of your significant memories of life in Palmyra? Because even though you weren't born here, you certainly lived here a good many years. And what's a significant memory of Palmyra?
Well, I had one child, one son, and his first thing he said when I bought this house on West Maple Street, he says, yeah, when I was in kindergarten and first grade, he says, that's great. He says, I had to walk from the 700 block to the school, what's in the Great Manor.
Right, from the 700 block of Railroad Street all the way to the railroad school.
Yeah, now he says, you buy a house right on top of the school. But he said it was better.
Yes.
But I just got to know a lot of people. We ran bingo in the fire hall. Got to know a lot of people. And I was accepted as an old timer as far as that is. But a lot of these guys wanted to talk about this guy and that guy in school. I said, well, I didn't go to school. So,
But do you think Palmyra was a great place to raise your son?
yeah.
And to
Say another thing.
okay.
Might be out of line a little bit. I moved to Palmyra. I was glad I didn't move to the homeless town. Because in the morning the sun hits you in the eyes when the homeless town comes to nursing, and in the evening the same way.
Well, you know, someone told us that when they were being interviewed, they said I forget where they worked, but they said every morning they had to go with the sun in your eyes, and then when they came home, the sun was in their eyes. So in this case, by living in Palmyra and working in Hershey, you didn't have to worry about
You
that.
have the sun to your back in the morning and the evening.
And the evening. That's a great thing. So you worked for Hershey for 38 years?
Yeah.
Okay. And you were in the fire company for how many years? Well, since 1947. And when did you decide to retire from the fire company? 79. Okay. Very good. Good.
I
Well,
bought a trailer.
that's okay. Don't worry about it.
I
Thank
was
you.
retired at 62, I know that.
You retired in 62.
No, at 60.
You retired at 62. And look, I bet you never thought you would be here at 92.
Oh.
32 years later. What have you done in your retirement in Palmyra?
Well, I bought a trailer, I bought a little one. Well, then one day I heard about a guy that had an Airstream trailer for sale.
Okay.
And by the name of Bell, back in Walnut Street. I went back and I bought that one.
So you've been camping in your retirement?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
My wife loved that. Yeah. But, I was born about 8 miles from the Nolan School.
Oh, okay.
And that's my camping spot most of the time.
Okay.
I've got relatives working. In fact, a girl that lived in the next house to me when I was going to first grade to school. There was 2 girls, 2 sisters there. One of them eventually married one of the Canoble boys.
Oh, okay.
And if you're familiar with Canobles, there,
No, I'm not.
well, there's a covered bridge to go to the campground, or across from the covered bridge is a nice big brick house.
Okay.
That's where she
And that's where she lived?
That's where
So you got to see her when you went up to...
Yeah, and I had relatives working in there. I still have relatives working in there.
I think a lot of people from the Palmyra area go to
They
Canobles.
do. Yeah.
I know Frances does, because I know she likes it up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're finished here for now. Thank you so much. I appreciate that you came in.
Yeah,
I'll tell Fred when I see him.
I hope I didn't goof anything